Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our readers and listeners of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position, along with your favorite beverage, to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine the show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience at SmithWeekly, including Dave V., Gordon S., Cindy W., and Luke A. On SmithWeekly Discussions today is a brand new guest. Mr. Nelson Baker has joined us. Nelson is president and CEO of Mineral Mountain Resources, an exploration stage company advancing the work at the Rochford Gold Project, which is located south from the historic and legendary Homestake gold mine in the Black Hills region, South Dakota. Mineral Mountain is a portfolio holding at SmithWeekly Research. The company is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol MMV and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol MNRLF. Mr. Baker, it's good to finally get you on the show, and welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be able to tell you about our excellent gold project in South Dakota.
And just some color for the audience here, Nelson. We've been trying to get you on the show for almost 1.5 years now, going back, and it took some arm twisting to get the job done. But I first came across Nelson back in the Rainy River days, back when, I'll be honest, when I didn't know a lot about the junior sector. Luckily, Nelson made me look good when I didn't have much of a grasp on things. So Nelson, take us back in time, though, maybe back to the good old days, if you will, and give us some of the good and bad highlight reel of your time in the listed junior business, which goes back a long time. You've been here for a long time, and you have exceptional amount of knowledge and wisdom in this sector.
It goes back to, my father was a very well-respected and successful prospector in Canada. I grew up in northern Ontario, right in the center of the Timmins Gold District, and my dad was responsible for discovering the North American palladium deposit, and my brother and I followed suit. We grew up and got a degree in geology and wanted to emulate Dad's success at making significant discoveries. I spent a good portion of my career after graduating at South Dakota School of Mines in 1969. I spent much of my career with Esso Minerals Canada, Canadian entity of Exxon Minerals, searching for essentially gold deposits throughout Canada and in the U.S. And we were part of our Esso Minerals team, part of a very successful group that made several discoveries in Canada, and including one discovery in the U.S. in Crandon, Wisconsin. We've had a lot of success. Then we, as a consultant, I was employed by Hunter Dickinson Mining in Vancouver, and while I was with Hunter Dickinson, we identified a very strong gold project in northwestern Ontario called Rainy River, and we took that project from 450,000 ounces of gold up to close to 5 million ounces, and sold that project off to NewGold for $343 million, and we were able to create significant value to Rainy River Resources. And then we decided, once we sold our project off to NewGold, we decided to form a new company called Mineral Mountain Resources. Brought essentially the same technical team that we had at Rainy River, and decided to venture into the Black Hills. Since I had graduated in South Dakota School of Mines in Rapid City, South Dakota, we were quite familiar with the Homestake mine successes, its history, We've been underground several times and decided that we wanted to exploring for iron-hosted gold deposits like the Homestake mine in the Black Hills. Our team quickly established that the Black Hills was vastly underexplored, particularly in modern exploration times. The era that the Homestake Belt was explored principally was from the 1875 to 1940 era. Modern technology like airborne surveys and that were not common. Were not used during that era, and we decided that it was an above average place to explore for iron hosted gold deposits.
And I appreciate the overview. Brings up a lot of interesting stuff just with your tie back to South Dakota. And then also, I think you underscore the Rainy River portion, but maybe just two things to get started here on what you said. The Rainy River part of it, the value during the peak of the last gold market was actually a lot higher than that. Maybe if you remember, I don't specifically remember where the value went, but it was much higher than what you sold it to NewGold for. And then secondly, you've gone from Canada back into the US. You've been in both places. Where would you rather work today, Canada or the US? I guess that's kind of a broad question depending on what province and what state, but maybe just speak to those couple items.
The South Dakota is we find exploring in South Dakota really easy because the local government are quite familiar with the Homestake mine successes. South Dakota School of Mines was built was built in 1985 based on Homestake successes, mining friendly area, easy to get permitted to drill, and things like that. But I'm at home either in Canada or in the U.S. Our staff, our technical team, are primarily Americans. Some of them have dual citizenships, and so there's no delays that we see. They are Americans and with a vast experience in the Homestake area. We're comfortable working in South Dakota. We find that their tax systems are much more easy to work with than other parts of the U.S. and we're happy to be there.
Yeah, and talk about the Rainy River bit though. That value of that company went up much more during the kind of 2010 period, if I recall, Nelson. Do you recall where that went as far as, total market cap during that period of time? Because, you guys reached a deal with NewGold after, of course, the air came out of the gold price at that point. Do you remember that particular point? And then was Rainy River the big initial win for you, Nelson, or was there some other wins that happened before that?
Oh no, Rainy River was definitely a big win for me and our technical team. We bought the Rainy River project from a company called New Insco based in Toronto. We bought that 25 cents a share and took Rainy River up to as high as $13.50 a share. And it took 2004 to 2010 when we sold to NewGold, but tremendous value added. The really critical thing about the Rainy River deposit or the discovery was the fact that it was under 25, 26 meters of glacial till and an area that historically wasn't well known for its gold assets, and so we created a significant value for our shareholders. By far, it went into production in 2017. It produces about 250,000 ounces a year for the next 18 years is what they're scheduling. So it was a major success for us, particularly where the deposit was in an area that hadn't been recognized as a major gold district. So we've really changed everybody's mind. So it was a major success for us.
Well, you definitely made me look smart at the time, Nelson. So I appreciate you covering that and appreciate the hard work as well that it takes. And Before we get into Mineral Mountain here, I just want to ask you one more question about your thoughts on these natural resource cycles, because you've been through a lot of them. And,
Yeah.
there's some people that definitely have not been around as long as you to experience these cycles, and they don't have the same experience level that you do. And there's also some comments out there in the market today that, these cycles are no more in a sector like gold. But really, is there anything different about this cycle, Nelson? And does this argument have any merit in regards to the cycles in the gold price and the natural resource cycles?
Well, in my experience, we go through these cycles, like, for example, zinc. Zinc now is very much in demand. It had, for the past 4 or 5 years, was not very much in demand, but now the cycle is really extremely positive for zinc and copper and all metals. It's a cyclical world we live in, and we're going through a real positive metals market. I think that this is a cycle that's going to last for 5 to 10 years. Real positive.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think there's some impatient folks out there, and there's a thought that this is different this time. Whereas, in fact, while there might be some differences, things might look a little different. The perception, the time frame, the circumstances. At the end of the day, I think that it's going to rhyme very similar to what's happened in the past. And I think after you've seen it for multiple cycles, my suspicion is you probably align with my thinking here as well. But Nelson, let's go to the deposit types in this Black Hills Homestake district, a really famous location. How complex are these deposit types, Nelson? And why do you think there is notable potential on your grounds?
Well, that's a very, very good question. The Homestake mine produced 41 million ounces from 1875 to 2001 when it closed. It never ran out of ore. In other words, it was just a question of gold price when it closed in the late 1990s. Gold was under $300 an ounce. They were mining ore underground at about $240 an ounce, and so they weren't. Their margin was low. They could see over the next decade that at the mine that they wouldn't be making any money at all. So they changed their focus. But we know that because of Homestake's success, we estimate that there was still about 4.5 million ounces still underground left at below the 8,000-foot level at 6 grams per ton. So these deposits are almost sought after compared to Red Lake and vein hosted gold deposits. Iron hosted iron formation are probably the best, most sought after deposit in our industry because there's no nugget effect. When you're in Red Lake or Kirkland Lake and Timmins, you have some places extremely high values of gold, and in other places, the next day you'd be mining and you'd have very low value. So the nugget effect. Whereas banded iron formation deposits tend to keep their grade across the entire mining width, and they're very well sought after. We know in the Black Hills that although Homestake is by far the largest deposit of its kind in the world, we know that there are other deposits nearby. We know that that's not a unique event. It's a district, and that district should host several more deposits. And we in Rochford, we've been there since 2013. Our work suggests that we have potentially up to 4 or 5 iron hosted gold targets that we've identified that could have the scale, similar scale to Homestake style deposits. As they say, the best place to find a deposit similar to what you're exploring for is next to a head frame, and we're only 25 kilometers south of the Homestake mine, and our geology is very, very similar to Homestake in all aspects. And we think that there's a real distinct possibility of us discovering a large scale style gold deposit. Standby Mine is by far our best target developed to date. but there are at least 4 other targets in the Rochford area that we feel has above average potential for discovery.
Nelson, the BIF hosted deposit style,
Yeah.
these are nowhere else in the world as far as, or is there other examples? Can you clarify that for the audience?
Prime examples are Kalgoorlie in a place called Mount Magnet in Western Australia. There's in Canada, we have the Musselwhite deposit, Northern Ontario. We also have 2 very large areas in the Nunavut in Northern Angava, where Agnico are defining large gold resource in several deposits in the Meadowbank area west of Rankin Inlet, and also the Northwest Territories up near the northern part, the top tip of the Northwest Territories. There's an area developed by TMAC Resources, which Agnico made a proposal to buy TMAC Resources out. These are just some of the examples of large iron-hosted gold deposits that are being developed right now and sought after.
Yeah, and that's good perspective for the audience. But let me tie this back into Black Hills area and, of course, the district Homestake. What other operators are in the area, Nelson? Is there interest? Is it just Mineral Mountain alone? And if not, talk about the others in the district if you think that this area is something that's definitely going to get a lot of attention in the years forward. What's your thought on, other people interested in this area?
Well, the one that's actively being produced now is the Wharf Mine, owned by Coeur Mining out of Chicago. They bought the Wharf Mine from Goldcorp maybe 5 years ago at $105 million price and have been producing gold continuously. If my memory serves me right, the mine has been in production for the past 35 years and has produced several million ounces of gold since it went into production. It's a heap leach type open pit deposit. Similarly, Agnico Eagle have taken on a project called Gilt Edge just south of the Homestake mine deposit and have indicated that they've defined a 3 million ounce resource below surface, very similar in style to the Wharf mine. And also, there's a private company called Dakota Territories, who are made up of ex-Homestake technical people that have gone out after the mine closed at Homestake. They went out and purchased a number of Homestake's assets in the area and have been very successful at tying up a real competitive large land tract in the Homestake mine area. And like us, they've been doing a lot of technical work, airborne research, structural compilation, and the Homestake mine area and the Homestake belt, including our area in Rochford, will become a brand new district with a lot of focus. We'll see new companies other than us coming into the area because of its raw potential.
Yeah, Nelson, that's interesting to point out. And Agnico Eagle interest with Gilt's Edge and just the small amount of players. And of course, you guys have a pretty good land package in the area. It is interesting here and really just unnoticed by the market. The deposit size that Agnico delineated at Gilt's Edge, how long have they been interested in the district and how long have they put that together? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's been that long.
It's been no more than 2 years, maybe a little less than 2 years. What they did is they went to it was a super fun gold project that was developed in late 1980s. So they went to the South Dakota government and said, "Listen, we would like to explore that." It's got a long history. The Gilt Edge has a long history of contaminated water, not caused by the company that had the property, but because of the fracturing and leakage in the rocks and the mineralization. That particular Gilt Edge was made a Superfund project and controlled by the South Dakota government. Agnico went to them and said, "Listen, we'll clean up the Gilt Edge project and make sure we control this leakage or contamination, but allow us to explore the Gilt Edge." And they did that over the past year and a half. They drilled several holes into the gold system. and we understand from them that they've delineated about 3 million ounces can be processed and that they would like to put into production. Once that happens, and we also understand that Coeur Mining have drilled adjacent to their pit and have extended the deposit significantly, and we understand that they themselves have 4 million ounce target defined. The Black Hills is certainly heating up. We've got an excellent contiguous land package in an area, and we were able to do that only because a stressful time we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. People that had land in the area gave it up, and we were able to come in and acquire a significant land holdings greater than 7,500 acres. We're probably the second largest landholder in the district. In addition to that, we put together probably the most comprehensive database for the Rochford district and acquired all the historical drill holes and logs and data associated with the historical work done in the Rochford district. And we were able to acquire the standby mine patents, which hosts one of the largest gold systems in the Rochford district.
Yeah, that's good information. Appreciate you sharing some more info there for the audience, Nelson. Well, let's move into Mineral Mountain a little bit closer here. Why don't you just go ahead and just give us a brief overview of the capital structure and then any key shareholders you'd like to mention or can mention? And then do you see that there's a need to raise cash for the company soon to continue activities?
Oh, yes. As of today, we have approximately fully diluted, we have 115 million shares out. Outstanding shares, 102 million. We've got roughly $2.5 million in cash, and we will need to finance a 9,000 meter drill program on standby to advance it. We've only explored the top 500 meters of the standby mine gold system, and we think that the best potential is a few hundred meters down plunge from where we left off. Our major shareholders are insiders, myself, board. We own approximately 60% of the company's position. We can comfortably put our hands on another 10% of the shares outstanding. Our largest shareholders are mainly investors from the private equity sector. There's no major company that owns a position in Mineral Mountain, and that's where we stand.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Nelson. And let me ask you about the management team, obviously beside yourself, but talk about the management team here, Nelson, and really the key people at the company.
We're very fortunate to have Terry Lyons on our board. Terry is lead director for Canaccord, also associated with Eric Sprott's group of companies. Terry's ran several companies over the past year. He's been an outstanding director. He's able to direct us to funds that he brings to our table, and very fortunate to have him. We have Barry Coughlin, our chairman, a past broker on several boards on the Hunter Dickinson Group. Also understands the markets really well and been a very valuable member of our team. Trevor Thomas, the legal counsel for Hunter Dickinson. He's also a really strong director that helps us out immensely. And Brian Correll is guiding the portion of the Nacatchewan First Nations group here in Tsawwassen First Nation group in Vancouver area. Helps them invest funds here locally in Vancouver, and he's able to provide us excellent direction in dealing with the First Nation in South Dakota. And Brad, he's with us at Hunter Dickinson. He's able to help us raise funds and help us in many categories.
Appreciate that, Nelson here. So let's expand on that just a little bit because it's one of my questions here. Go over the relationship that you and management have with the local tribes. That's very important in the community. How important is this relationship to gain the social license in a historical mining region that, has had some issues in the past and had some difficulties? How do you see that this goes in the event that you turn up an economic deposit?
It's vitally important for us to solidify a very positive relationship with local indigenous group. We want to make them part of our success. If we ever develop a deposit that goes into production, we want them to have vital say as to how the deposit's developed, who's working on the sites, and provide jobs. That's really important today. And we explore. Our exploration is done. We're under strict guidelines as to how we drill, how we refurbish the drill sites, what we do with the water, the water that's returned. We follow the guidelines as stringently as possible. We have an excellent relationship with the Department of Energy National Resources. We're able to get our permits to drill within a very quick timeline. We have an excellent rapport with Department of Energy and Natural Resources in South Dakota as well. And after the completion of every hole, we have an on-site visit from Department of Energy that verifies that we have to plug every hole, make sure it's done properly. So yes, we're very conscious of mining sector, and we know that we have to follow some really stringent rules, and we're able to do that.
This is important also for that state, South Dakota. Natural resource extractive industries are just important for the local economy in that area. Really good benefits to the community if you guys are able to advance something here and keep that effort up. Nelson, talk about the plans. You've got the two primary targets, Standby and Cochrane. You mentioned the depth here on the next program, but what's the focus and where do you really want to see this company by 2022?
Well, first of all, Standby Mine has the size and volume of gold-bearing material that we feel could host a significant large-scale deposit, very similar to one of the ore ledges that Homestake mined called the 9 ledge. That 9 ledge produced a little over 9 million ounces. We feel that we have the scale, the size, the volume of unexplored material in Standby to be able to define that size of deposit. So our goal this year is to initially in the next 4 to 6 weeks drill down plunge from Standby Mine surface mine area down plunge to as much as 1,800 meters down plunge. And we feel that the material that we've drilled to date at Standby is what they term at Homestake to be upper tail style mineralization. It tends to be not as high grade or consistent as what we call the ore centroid in Homestake style deposits. We feel that ore centroids at Standby has not been drill tested yet. Our objective is to drill down plunge to vector towards this centroid style deposit. With success, we hope to achieve this drilling by midsummer. If we're successful, we'll delineate a advanced drill program to delineate a resource at the Standby mine. Coincidentally, the other project is advanced. Is called the Cochrane deposit. On surface, there was 268,000 ounces of non-compliant gold resource at grading a little over 6 grams, defined down to about 130 meters. We are in the process of permitting now to drill down plunge from that surface resource. Been applying for permitting and hopefully we'll granted that by midsummer. So we would continue drilling on the Cochrane deposit down plunge to trace and follow that resource that's near surface. And as well, we have 3 other targets of significant scale that are iron-hosted gold occurrences that our compilation suggests they're large-scale gold targets, and we'll systematically advance those as well. So we're going to be very, very busy this year. Mainly, we want to confirm to our investors and to our team that we really do have a similar geological environment to the Homestake deposit, and we want to advance those key targets to discovery.
You give us a good flavor of what kind of profile you're looking for as far as size and the types, which can be very substantial if you guys are able to strike something really good here. And I guess, The other part of that too is if you guys are successful and you really do see something coming out of the standby target, if that comes out positive, do you see you guys will just drop everything else for the time being and really focus in on getting standby delineated? And then also with your guys' land package and the two competitors we talked about land packages earlier, are you guys of the opinion, Nelson, or are you of the opinion that this land package you guys have and these targets are well selected and superior to the competition?
Not saying superior. No, I think that we're part of a gold bearing belt that has not been well explored, and we have a very important land package with the same style of geology to both Coeur and Agnico. Our style of deposit is more akin to the Homestake deposit style, whereas Gilt Edge and Coeur Mining are open pit style deposits, a little lower grade, but nonetheless really sizable gold resource. We're talking about exploring for a deposit with 8 to 10 gram per ton value that would be an underground style deposit. At some point, as we move this project along and enhance our knowledge of what we have, we would be happy to entertain a major gold producer to come in and help us move the project to development.
Nelson, and you've got Homestake going down to like roughly 2,500 meters. The standby trend, you guys are only, down around, looks like so far, around 1,000 meters.
Yeah, we just barely tickled the project. We haven't really started to test the standby mine project properly. We think it's got outstanding potential for a large resource, and a lot of people are happy if they find a 1,000,000 ounce deposit. We're talking a much larger scale. If we're right, Mineral Mountain is not a small company. The impact that it would have, if we prove our theory right, we have a very significant mid-tier type company.
Nelson, and talk about the characteristics. Is there a real rhyming trend with Homestake and standby here? Because it looks like you could point to that fact just based on the data that you guys have presented so far. And with that, to prove your point, do you guys really see that your point will be proven or disproven over the next, say, 2 years?
Definitely. Actually, we'll know this year whether our theory, we actually know we've taken depth slices of the standby mine Rochford Iron Formation that hosts the gold. We've taken depth slices down to 500 meters. We have a real good assessment of what this deposit is doing physically, and we're able to adapt our drill program to properly test that standby mine deposit. And Homestake Mine, from surface down to where they stopped mining, that was 2.5 kilometers, or 4 kilometer strike length. 4 kilometer strike length of significant ore grade gold mineralization. These things aren't small deposits, and if we prove our theory right, I'm willing to bet that we have one of the best gold prospects in North America.
Well, we'll place our physical gold bets offline here, Nelson. So
And
looking
you
at
got to be you have to be positive, and it's all based on good technical science. It's not me just standing here and saying this is what we have. We're basing it on research and good hard technical data, strong compilation. We've got some really good ideas of what these. Matter of fact, we're convinced it's documented that at one time the Rochford district was right west of the Homestake mine deposit. Through the years, many years, of course, geological years, the Rochford district was shifted down 14 kilometers along a major shear zone. So essentially, we have the Homestake geology, and that's why the geology is so similar. No, we're excited about our potential.
Yeah, it certainly is very interesting here. And I can definitely get the sense of your enthusiasm here and just your love of this business as well, doing what you're doing. And looking at the share performance, Nelson, well, there's been three specific run ups in the price since 2016 until now. Have the disappointments been on the drill results this far? Is it company specific, Nelson, or do you think it's just larger sentiment declines in the overall junior gold space?
No, I think particularly the Homestake Gold Belt is not this style of deposit is not it's complex. I mean, there's a lot of folding, tight folding, and shear zone. When we first embarked on a drill program on standby, we did not have the knowledge we know now, and so some of our holes were spotted and drilled in a direction that we would drill differently now. So when we put out intersections like 20 meters of 2 grams or 43 meters of 1.21 grams, 29 meters of 3.19 grams, these are big, wide intervals, but our investors keyed to thinking that we would hit homestake style grades immediately from our drill program. And that's not realistic. We felt that our drill program was above average. We got significant results that told us that we're on the right track, but we didn't get 10 meters of 10-gram grade intersect that our investors were looking for. Technically, we feel that that was a very successful drill program. It told us a hell of a lot. It told us that we were on target to define a homestake style deposit, and we still are convinced our drilling to date has not tested the right central or centroid type areas. We're not very far from being able to test that theory. So I think it was just a question that our investors were anticipating that we would bang into a homestake style deposit grade immediately. That's really not realistic. We're unable to do that. And because of its complexity, we've had a hard time convincing investors that we're on the right track. But recently, work that we've done through SRK, recompiling the airborne, the structural complexities of the area, doing depth slicing, doing resistivity airborne, and flying at two surveys, one at 100-meter centers and the other one at 50-meter centers. So we really advanced our knowledge of what we have since we drilled our zone. So it's a question of it's up to us to make believers out of our investors that we really do have something significant.
Well said, good points, and I think that that certainly has played into it. And then also, I think the overall sentiment in the sector has also played into part of this price issue.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
well, Nelson, talk about the end game at Mineral Mountain. Is this, if successful, is this a acquisition? Go back to your timeline for a moment, and then also, will you stay on board to see the end result?
Oh, definitely. I've never been involved, even with our Rainy River success, we're talking about an entirely different upside potential here at Rochford. I have never been involved in a project that has so much upside potential. I will stay on as long as I can physically because I don't really need to be doing this, but I'm passionate about it. I love what we're doing, and you're all about success for us is having the right team. And we have the right guys. They're believers that this project is for real and with a lot of upside potential. So, yeah, sure, we'll advance it as far as we can physically, define resource, or prove to the industry that the Homestake Belt is far more prospective than just the Homestake mine deposit alone. There are others out there. We think we have a few of them out there on our project.
For potential investors who are on the sidelines listening, market cap stands around 20 million Canadian today, Nelson. What would you say to potential investors at this stage for the company and at current price levels?
I would say if our model is correct, the upside potential is very similar to companies like Great Bear in Canada, Novo Success. I think the upside potential is enormous. So at 23, 25-cent level, I think a key investment in an outstanding gold project with above average potential. And the experience we had at Rainy River, trading as high as 13 and a half, I can see similar things happening with Mineral Mountain.
interesting narrative, Nilsson, and as a portfolio holding over here at SmithWeekly Research, we're looking forward to you delivering on this as a go out with a bang, if you will. I think the timing and the cycle is correct and the price is right, and you certainly have that know-how along with a really good team to try to take that narrative and actually put it to work and actually show it to the market here. So how about the best way for investors to reach out to the company at this point?
Get a hold of Brad Baker, who's our corporate development person, or our website, mineralmtn.com. But Brad Baker, Vancouver, 778-383-3975. His email address is bbaker@mineralmtn.com.
Well, Mr. Baker, thank you for the efforts and the time today, and you stay well out there, and you guys keep up the good progress.
Thanks, Andrew. Thank you for giving us the time to tell our story, and appreciate giving us the time to do that.